the one, the only, Ben Sion.
Good afternoon and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube Just Dafid as we continue Masechas Gittin, Daf Lamed number 30. Difficult daf today, not easy. Questionable things about Truma, Maestros, Matanos La'aniyim. I want to start today. We're going to talk about Onus Begittin. I'm going to focus my Ian share on Onus Begittin, which is, if anyone learns Masechas Ksuvos in Yeshiva, it's on the second sugya in Masechas Ksuvos. People spend a lot of time on that. I'll get into that in Ian with Ben Sion. Let's start from that. The third line, Lamed Aleph. Huda Amar Ila Asina Atlas and Yomin Lahevi Gita. He says to his wife, if I don't come back in 30 days, the get that I'm handing you is a valid get. Also, Paskim Avra. He tried to come back within 30 days, but the bridge was broken. The bridge had collapsed. Amar Lu, Chazu Dasai. He said, look, I'm coming. He told me I came. Amar Shmuel Lo Shmei Mastia. It's considered like he didn't come. It's a get. This is the famous claim. Ain't onus begittin. Gittin. There's no claim of onus by gittin. In another case, he says to his wife, they were in a bitter argument. He said, if I don't mollify you, if you don't placate you within 30 days, the get I'm giving you now is valid. Also, he tried his best to placate her. She was not happy. Rav Yosef says he should have gave her a lot of money. He should have borrowed a lot of money, borrowed a lot of gold coins, give it to her. He could have been fired her like that. He didn't try hard enough. Therefore, it's a get. He could have Amri, a different law. Does he have to give her so much? He tried to mollify her with whatever means he had. He couldn't. So it's onus. So the way Rashi explains this last line over here is that the first language of Yosef held that ain't onus begittin, right? There's no claim of onus, even though you're not rich enough to give her the money, and you're onus, you're nenas, so you don't have the money. It still does not help you, and it's a get. The second language holds he tried his best. It wasn't who's nenas, so therefore. Yeshon is begittin, the get is not a valid get. The Mishnah says, "Amalva mos es a kohen v'es a levi v'es a ani." He lends money to a kohen or a levi or a poor person. He goes, "Ma'afash alayim nechelkan." Kohen and levi, they don't have too much money, and ani doesn't have too much money, but they are zoka to manos kuna, manos levi, manos aniyim. So they pledge to repay him with those things. And not only that, he tells them, you know what? You go ahead and separate from my crop truma and Meiser for the Levi, and Meiser Ani for the Ani, or Shekha and Peah and things like that. They're not around anymore. They went overseas, but they still held land over here. You could assume they're still alive. You don't have to worry. Just like a previous mission, we don't worry they died. We don't worry that even the Ani became rich. Mesu. If these people actually died, it was confirmed the Kohen and Levi, the Ani died. You have to ask the Yarshim, even though normally Yarshim have to pay back, right? They have to pay back. Here we're talking about things that are attached to the ground. It's karkos, and they have to pay back karkos. The taltlin, it's only mitzvah l'kayim d'ramis. They don't technically have to owe it to the person. When I'm a shibud mamon, it's a mitzvah to do that. But over here, the Gemara is going to explain why they have to ask them. Because technically, it's not their money. The Kohen and Levi and the Ani, it's a schus, a right they have, but it's not really their money. So, right, you can't ask the Yorshim to pay something that's not really their money. They didn't really inherit that. They're just, right, it's not something that's really their money. In Hilvan, if they based in, if the person gave a loan to these people, the Kohen, Levi, or the Ani in front of based in, then it's like it's written in Beis Din. When something's written in Beis Din, like we said yesterday, Beis Din is very strong, and therefore it becomes almost like a chov that you have to pay. If you have karka, you have to pay, and if you have metalton, you have to pay from the metalton midin mitzvah l'kayim devrei meis. The Gemara says, "Afal gav d'asal liyadei." How could it be that you lend money to a Kohen, let's say, and you go and mafresh truma from his you take truma that he's supposed to get. All right. You take truma that he's supposed to get, meaning you. Sorry, we're talking about your own crops over here. You're not taking someone else's crops. Your own crops, right? How can you take the truma that's going to belong to the Kohen, right? Instead of giving this truma to the Kohen, I mafresh the truma and automatically give it to myself. How could I do that? How could I take it? How could I make a loan on something that didn't get happen? It's like making a kinyan on something which is low bal olam. It's not in the world yet. I'm a Rav Makira Kahuna Vilavia. Rav says we're talking about a case where these are people that they owe the Kohen Levi have even before this loan they've been giving you the Trumas and Maisos. So therefore it's already in some ways already like assumed it's going to be in your hand. It's not called, right? Even though Davar Shalom Olam doesn't work, but something which happens normally like fruits which don't come out of a tree, that's not called, according to some opinions, Davar Shalom Olam. The Shmuel Amar Shmuel is a different answer. You do it through a zikoi. We talked about zechia yesterday. That you do a kinyan, let's say, with a handkerchief through other people, and therefore, and that does work. Zikoi does work on a davar shalom olam. Ula Amar Hani Mein Rabbi Yossi. A third answer. Our Mishnah follows Rabbi Yossi. The Amar Asu Es Shein Zocha Gezocha. The Rabbanan have the ability, and then hefker based on hefker, even though you didn't actually do a zikoi, they said we'll be mezakeh for you. So the says Kulu Karavlo Amri Shmuel and Ula didn't say like Rav, Makir lo kasani, doesn't say Makir in the Mishnah. Like Shmuel lo kamri, Mazaka lo kasani, doesn't say a case specifically of Zikoi. Kula and Amri lo Amri, Kichida lo makmina. Ula is saying like Riosi, he's only a single opinion. We'd like to take the majority opinion. Tana Rabban, Malva Mos is a Kohen, is a Levi, Sa'ani, Leos, Marfash Alayim, Chelka, and Marfash Alayim, Chetzkes, and Kayamin. You could assume they're still alive, even though they went overseas. Opposed to Kimon Kashar Azol. Not only that, you could also stipulate to them that, right, I lend them $100 now. I say Trumas now is selling for, I don't know, a pound of wheat is selling for $1, let's say. So, and even, let's say, when the crop grows and I'm separating Truma, it's selling for $2 a pound. I can take whatever, if it's cheaper, either it's 50 cents or it's $2. If it's $2, I can take based on the $2. If it's 50 cents, I take based on the dollar. So, sorry, if it's 50 cents, I take for 50 cents. And if it's $2, I take for the dollar, right? I take the lower amount. I get more wheat for my buck, more money for my buck. Ve'en bo mishum ribis. And there's no issue of ribis over here of getting extra money. It's technically, right, if it was worth $1 a pound of wheat right now, and then it went up to $2 a pound, right? So, or sorry, went down to 50 cents a pound. So I'm getting extra, I get for 50 cents a pound, I get more wheat than I would have got originally. It's not called ribis. We'll talk about why it's not called ribis. And shvius b'shamaso, this type of loan, shvius, even though normally shvius, right, negates a loan. This shvius does not. If he hasn't paid back before shvius, it doesn't negate the loan. Again, we'll see. If the Gemara is talking about the Kohen Levi, if he wants to renege on the deal, right, give him back the money and say, I'm not giving you Shumas and Ma'is, so he could do that. If the creditors gave up hope, there was going to be no crops, then they lose their right to take Shumas and Ma'is from their own crops for themselves. Because you're not mafresh ala avod. You gave up hope, you're in a siyayish. We're going to analyze this price. Of course they have the right. The Chiddush is, even if they don't make the stipulation, it's like they made the stipulation, the benefits always go to the creditor. The ain't mo shum ribis, no ribis, my time. I came in the chilei, right? Technically, he's saying, I'm going to take the trumas and ma'asos that grow. If my plans don't go this year, there's no trumas and ma'asos, I'm not going to get paid. So there's a possibility I'm not going to get paid over here. Even though technically I'm posting mokashar azol and I might get extra, because it's a two-sided, each one has a risk, right? The creditor might not get paid, and the debtor might pay extra, so it cancels out. The whole issur of ribis is taking advantage of someone, definitely. But when there's a risk on each side, there's no ribis. I think it's an important halacha about ribis. My time, right? So the Gemara says, The ain't shvius from Shemad. The Kohen lo yigos. The same halacha about shvius. Why shvius? Shvius, it says you shouldn't press someone who borrowed your money. But there's no issue of pressing over here because if the crops don't grow, so he's not going to have to pay you in the first place. So you can't press him for the money. So therefore, it's not even called shvius. It's not the halacha of shmitas ksafim doesn't apply. Right? You can't retract the balabayas. The creditor can't, who gave the money, he can't say, you know what, give me my money back. Or he wants to give the money back and say, I'm reneging on the choser. It's not. We learn if you pay for something, in this case, you took money, right, and you didn't acquire it yet. I mean, the Trumas Mites weren't separated in this case. You can renege on that because midaraisa, even though most are konos, midarabanan they said most are not konos. Since Yashua Bailim, ein ma'avish leilim l'fisha ein ma'avish avad pshita, obvious. Lo shricha d'akon. Right? If you gave up hope, you gave up hope. You're miyayish. You no longer have the ability to collect. It's talking about a case where originally it grew. The plants started growing that year, and then winds came and they ruined them, and then miraculously they came back. So in the middle, he was nisyayish. Another thing with akanta milsa, you might think the fact that they grew a little bit, so he already had mine, and you can't be miyayish. Something you already were kona in your mind. Kamash malan, it's not considered something important, and therefore it's considered yayish, and he loses the ability to collect. Tanya, when Yaakov Omer, Malvamos a Kohen, that's a Levi based in. You lend money to a Kohen or Levi in based in. Right? We talked about that in the Mishnah. Mesa, when they died. Not right. You can actually take not just from them, but you can take from any Kohanim and Levium, because all Kohanim and Levium take from one reservoir. All the money is pulled together of all Klal Yisrael, and the Kohanim and Levium get that. So if you didn't get from this Kohen Levi, you get from some different Kohen Levi. Right? It's only if you didn't base it. That's only based if you lent money to a poor person based on Israel. Again, poor people are all joined. They're all joined in Peah, Shech, Lechet, Shecha, Peah, and Ma'isar Ani. They also get that. He says all the it's a pool of all the people in the world. My Menayu doesn't include non-Jews. What's the difference in these last two opinions? Ani Kusim, which are some say they're Jewish, some say they're not Jewish. According to the second opinion, Aniyei Olam means Kusim. You can collect from Kusim also. According to the first opinion, you can only collect from real Jews, not Kusim. Esher Ani Ein Ma'afish Alav. The Brisa says if the poor person became rich, Ein Ma'afish Alav. You can't separate. You can't take Ma'aser Ani from him. V'zacha Halav Masha Biyado. The rich person wins out. He's rich, and you can't collect from him. He's not getting minus name. You can't collect anything. Right? They said if the person dies, you can collect from the entire Shevet Kahuna or the entire Aniyim. Why do they make dakana also? You can collect from other Aniyim. Misa shchicha, ashiras lo shchicha. Misa is common. Ashiras lo shchicha. It's not common for a poor person to get rich. Right? You see this. It's very hard for people that are born into families not of means to become wealthy. If someone tells you your friend died, Asher, you can validate that. You can sign on the dotted line. It's Asher, lo ta Asher. It says if miraculously became rich, he was very poor, became rich. He was homeless, became rich. Don't validate that. Don't believe it until you check it out. Made tzarech lito rishus. Tanya Rebbe Omer Yorshin Shiyarshu. Right, the second half of Mishnah says that if he died, you have to take Rishus. You have to ask the Yorshim if you can have the money, if you can have the Jews and Maisos. You don't automatically get that. Tanya, Rebbe Omer, Yorshin Shiyarshu. It means only inherited to inherited. So the Gemara says, Micha Yorshin Yarsti. That every Yoresh by definition inherited something. Otherwise, he wouldn't be called an inheritor. What Rebbe meant is that only if they inherited land. But if they inherited money, you don't even right to ask them. I'm Rabbi Yonatan, Hiniach Mali Machat, Gove Mala Machat. Malakardom, Gove Malakardom. Rabbi Yonatan says, right, at least where you collect in Basin, right? If you made the halva in Basin, so then Basin is the one collecting, you're not the one collecting, so therefore they have the right to collect from the Yorshim. So when you collect from the Yorshim, you can only collect from the Yorshim if it's Karka. Ksafim, you can collect, but it's only because they have a mitzvah. You have no Shibud Mammon to collect. Let's say he leaves over only a land. So technically you can only collect land. Let's say a small needle amount of land. And he owed a big amount of money. So all you can collect is whatever land he has. Malakar, a big amount of land, you can collect a big amount of land. There's still a way, even if you let the small amount of land, there's still a way of you collecting a lot of the land. Basically, you collect the land, then you let them buy it back. You collect it again, let them buy it back. I think eventually they'll catch on, but that was the story of Katina da Abaye. Abaye collected, he was owed $100. He had a piece of land that he was collecting the debtors only had $50 land, so he collected $50 land, they bought it back, and then he collected it again, and that was good. But if you do it 100 times, they're not going to buy it back again. It's an enigmatic brisa. We'll try to analyze this. So Yisrael said to a Levi, I have meiser of yours. Meiser yesh lecha biyadi. Sorry, in my hands you have meiser. I owe you meiser. Ein choshen l'trumas meiser shabo. We don't worry there's trumas meiser involved over here. Kor meiser yesh lecha biyadi. If you say, of course, a large amount of meiser that you have in my hands, meaning I grow my crops. There are a lot of meiser for you. Choshen l'trumas meiser. Worry about trumas meiser shabo, which is punishable like kares. By Misa de Shema, if you eat it. My Kalmar, what was this price saying? Amar Abaye Haki Amar Yisrael Shamar Levi Meiser Shachal Bayadi. Yisrael says to Levi, I have Meiser. I have a field. I have Meiser. Right? I want to give it to you. V'heilach damav. Instead of giving it to you, take money. I want the crops. Ein choshen shema asau trumas Meiser al makom acher. Technically, right? We don't assume that this Levi, probably he's a makire Levi. He always gets the manos aniyim. We don't assume that he designated this meiser, whatever was in his hand, as the trumas meiser, right? He's getting a large amount of meiser, 100 barrels of meiser. This person says, I have 1 barrel of meiser to give you. So we don't assume that 1 barrel he made trumas meiser. If he says that I have a big amount of meiser, and here's the money, I'll pay you for. We're worried. He took the money, and then he made a chumas meiser afterwards to ruin him. Somewhere to Ad Rashi Askin. We're talking about people Rishoyim. The Shakli Dam, they're going to take payment. Mushava the chumas meiser. They're going to make it chumas meiser, right? Because it's a lot of money. When you get a core meiser, it's a lot of money you're getting. So, but still, people are not Rishoyim. I don't know why the Gemara always says that. Ad Rashi Askin. Yeah, most of the people are in the world of Rishoyim. They're not tzaddikim. I don't know why the Gemara says that. I have to figure that out. Elam Rasharshia, Breder Ravidi Hachigamar. Yisrael Shamar LeBein Levi. Yisrael says to someone a Levi, Meiser LaVicha. At least he's a son of a Levi. Your father was Ohed Meiser that I'm still holding on to. I owe him Meiser. Heilach Damav. Here, take money and I'll keep it. Ein Kol Shem Asau Aviv Trumas Meiser. We don't worry the father of a Levi made a Trumas Meiser al Malkam Acher. Right, this happened 20 years ago. We're not worried about it. Kor meiser la'avicha b'yad v'helach dam of choshen shem asar aviv trumas meiser al makom acher. It was a big amount, and somehow he let someone else have it. So presumably he used that as trumas meiser, and that's why he didn't care about it if someone else had it. So the Gemara says, if he's holding on to it and belonged to the father of the Levi, who was a Levi, he would have had to make it Trumas Meiser when it's not in front of him in someone else's house. You can't do that. L'chadchila, you can't take off Shalom and Amukaf. A third explanation. A Yisrael says to a Levi, my father, who's Yisrael, told me, Meiser lecha biyadi, your Meiser is in my hand, or Meiser lavicha biyadi, or your father had Meiser in my father's hand. Choshen l'chumas Meiser shabo. We're switching the words over here. Instead of ein choshen, we're switching the choshen and switching the girsa over here. Choshen chumas meiser, but we're worried that chumas meiser is mixed into the meiser rishon. Came into little kits, since it wasn't a specific amount. Lo have misakin le balabai. He doesn't know. He says it was a bunch of meiser. Since it wasn't fixed, it wasn't weighed in an amount. It wasn't counted. So therefore, we assume chumas meiser wasn't taken off. The kids, since he measured a core, even though it's a big amount, right? Since it was a measured amount, we assume Shumas Meiser was taken off. V'chiyesh lo rishus balabayis l'shum trumas meiser. Does the balabayis, this Yisrael, how does he have the ability to take off trumas meiser? Right? Only a Levi can take who is in meiser gets meiser. He can take trumas meiser. The balabayis can take off truma, but not trumas meiser. Remember, in it's true he could. Abba Elazar ben Gamla. It reflects the opinion of Elazar ben Gamla. The sign of Abba Elazar ben Gamla Omer. V'nechshav lachem trumaslam. The Pasuk talks about truma gdola, and trumaslam is plural. It'll be reckoned for you a truma. So he darshans b'shtei trumas on top of a lam and aleph and aleph. B'shtei trumas are called medaber. It's talking about two different trumas, equating two different trumas. Achas truma gdola, achas trumas meiser. Kashem should truma gdola, and he tells us about omer or machshava. So we'll learn two halachas from this. Just like truma gdola does not have to be exact. The average is to give 150, but it doesn't have to be exact. Machshava. You could even do it with your thought. Like designate on the right side should be truma of the barrel. Kach trumas meiser and tell us about omer machshava. Trumas meiser really is supposed to be, a certain amount, meiser, minah meiser, but it also could be done with basically approximation and also with just thought. Just like the owner of the produce, he can take off truma gdola. Well, even though we didn't make it meiser yet, he still has the ability to take off trumas meiser, or at least separate meiser rishon and take a trumas meiser off from that himself. So you do, according to this opinion, we do hold like you have the ability to take off trumas meiser by yourself. That's the conclusion of today's shir. Stay tuned for Ian with Ben Sion. We'll talk about the beginning of the daf, which is really related to Mzachas Gittin. The rest of the daf wasn't related to Mzachas Gittin. I wanted to touch briefly on this topic of Ein Onis Begittin. Timely Paskin, Ein Onis Begittin. What's the half of Ein Onis Begittin? Why should it be Onis Begittin? Right? The guy says it's a get on condition that I come within 30 days. And he says that it was unfortunate. The bridge was broken. But there was a Tanai. You weren't Makayim the Tanai. It's a get al Tanai. You weren't Makayim the Tanai. So what does an Onus? Onus doesn't help you in this. You have to fulfill the Tanai. Right? We'll talk about that. Ian with Ben Sion coming up next.